Just Baseball Show is live, and here's what we are doing, folks. We are recapping day 3 of the winter meetings, and there was a humongous domino that fell here. Naturally, everybody that loves the New York Mets, which means that you hate the New York Mets, they came out and they said, you know what, sky is falling. Everything is crumbling around us because Pete Alonso just signed a 5-year, $155 million deal with the Baltimore Orioles. We've got Peter Apple's reaction coming up. We've got Aram Layton's immediate reaction coming up. We recorded with him just after this news broke, and he was in Orlando at the winter meeting. So we are going to discuss Pete Alonso at length, maybe some other reports as the show comes to a close. But this was a nice finish to the winter meetings. We'll get to Alonso, who we brought to you by
BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether it be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JUSTBASEBALL. Why? You get a first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. Orioles fans, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, maybe it's a good time to get those Orioles World Series futures down. But again, remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. I'm glad we're starting with me. My reaction will certainly be better than Aram's.
Yeah, yours is more important. Frankly, at the end of the day, like what you say is more important than what I will ever say and what Aram will ever say. So
I don't know if it's more important. I think it's just louder.
It is louder, but louder is always more important. It doesn't matter if you're on the right side as long as you overwhelm the person on the other side of the argument.
Stephen A. Smith makes $50 trillion a year, and he hasn't been right once. It's all about screaming into the mic, and that's why we're going with me first. I'm going to be louder.
And I want to make sure that you're not going to give us a measured take. Oh, you have to wait until the offseason comes to a close. Maybe they're reallocating. I need you to eviscerate the New York Mets here and already declare the Baltimore Orioles World Series champs. By the way, he's Peter, I'm Jack. We decided what Peyton Genus will be referred to as on the Just Baseball Show after we stopped the live show last night. He's Podcast P. He's our Podcast P. Yeah. He floated the idea of playoff P, and we were talking about producer Peyton. He is our Podcast P. So Podcast P is hanging out here with all of the bells and whistles, but time for Takes Lord to get active.
I love it, and he deserves it. It is kind of unfortunate that my first name also starts with Peter, and I've done 1,004 episodes now, and I don't even have a nickname. But let's talk instant reaction. It's so funny. When the Pete Alonso news came across the ticker, my immediate reaction was Camden Yards. Left field is pretty damn far for righties. I want to go check Baseball Savant and see what all the homers would look like if he played all of his games at Camden Yards. So if he played all of his games at Citi Field last year, he would have hit 36 home runs. And you would expect, because left field is really, really far away, the fence is, it's going to be hard for him to hit home runs at Camden Yards. Quite the opposite. StatCast has him at 45 home runs if he played every single one of his games at Camden Yards. And it makes sense. Pete Alonso is not one of these guys who needs to pull fly balls in the air. He's done a great job of hitting the ball to all fields, which is what led to the highest batting average that he's posted since that 2019 season. It might have actually been his best. I don't remember him ever hitting above 272. So, first, any thoughts on that initial reaction? Am I kind of a nerd for that one, or is that actually a good first reaction?
No, you're not a nerd. I think that's a good first reaction to immediately go to Savant. Now, the right way to go to Savant is by just looking at the bubbles and saying, this guy is gushing blood. He's going to be so sick there. And that is how you analyze a player. And Pete Alonso is gushing blood. Now, here's the thing. He is freezing cold as it pertains to sprint speed and outs above average defensively. Who cares? You're paying him to mash. You're paying him for the red bubbles, and he's got a lot of red bubbles, and the sliders are all the way up on the power production. But I do appreciate the expected homers by ballpark. And Camden Yards, it's funny. You would think, oh, this guy's power would dissipate. With Alonso, Obviously left field is not as graveyardish as it was even 2 years ago in Baltimore. But the other thing that we have to appreciate about Pete Alonso is he is an all fields power threat. The
Mhm.
biggest home run of his major league career came against Devin Williams. And where did it go? It went down the right field line, folks.
Absolutely. And another thing that I really appreciate about Pete Alonso is he's clearly built a little bit different. And what I mean by that is you have that circus with the Mets last offseason, right? Where he's going to be a free agent. He's not getting the market value that he wants. And he clearly signs a deal that he didn't want to take with the Mets. And what could you do? You could cower and kind of sit there and sulk, or you could have one of the best seasons that he's ever had, which is exactly what he did. The power was still there. And another reason I like him on the Orioles is the Orioles last year hit 234 with runners in scoring position. They needed a guy who was a bona fide run producer. And Pete Alonso hit 309 with runners in scoring position last year. Now, batting average tends to, go up and down. It's not really a predictive stat. But what is clear is that Pete Alonso has been a run producer throughout his career. Since 2019, Pete Alonso leads Major League Baseball in RBIs. Michael Elias came out and said they needed a right-handed power bat. And it makes sense. They could certainly use the power. They ranked 24th in OPS last year as an offense. But their lineup is predominantly left-handed. And Ryan Mountcastle sitting in the middle was not exactly great, their overall lineup against lefties. But now you bring in Pete Alonso and Taylor Ward, and you look at the current Orioles lineup: Jackson Holliday, Jordan Westburg, Gunnar Henderson, Pete Alonso, Adley Rutschman, Taylor Ward, rookie Dylan Beavers, Colton Cowser, and Samuel Basallo. That's going to play. That is absolutely going to play.
At the highest level. And I do see a world, and we talk about this a little bit with Aram coming up. I do see a world where this is the best lineup in Major League Baseball in 2026. What goes into having the best lineup in baseball? Obviously, it's top end talent, and they have that. You're banking on a bit of a bounce back from Gunnar Henderson, but really just a progression of who he is. Gunnar Henderson is one of the best shortstops in Major League Baseball. What you are bouncing on, and I make this point more at length a little bit later on, Adley Rutschman bouncing back is one of the premier stories to watch in Major League Baseball this year, because you look at that lineup, and I think a lot of people after the 25 season would be looking at Adley Rutschman and saying, oh, he's not the top 3 catcher in baseball that he once was. Don't forget, we're 2 years removed from him being the consensus top catcher in baseball. We thought this guy was a future superstar and a $300 million catcher. Not the case. Body is backed up on him a little bit, I guess. It seems like the swing mechanics are out of whack. I don't know what's going on with Adley Rutschman, but assuming that he slammed the reset button and goes into 26 with this new zest for offensive production in Baltimore, I'm all about this lineup being the best in baseball, because you have a healthy Colton Cowser going into the year. Samuel Basallo struggled at the beginning of his major league career, but you have as much faith in Basallo as really anybody. 1 through 9, it's great. And the top end talent can be supreme with Henderson, Alonso, and Rutschman if he bounces back.
Yeah, a lot of the key guys in the lineup really need to bounce back. But if they do, this Orioles lineup could absolutely compete as one of the best in baseball. 5 years, $155 million. When you saw that, what was your first reaction?
$5 million more than Kyle Schwarber.
I know.
That was my immediate reaction.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I do, because at the end of the day, I know he doesn't play it well, but he plays a position, and Schwarber doesn't. And oh, by the way, Alonso is 3 years younger than Kyle Schwarber. So I agree that there is $5 million more across a 5-year deal of value there. I don't know. Like, it wasn't the level of pettiness that the Lindor after Tatis extension was, where Tatis got 340 and Lindor got 341. But that definitely crossed my mind, where I was saying, oh, so Schwarber got 150. Alonso definitely wanted more. It didn't matter how much more. He just wanted more, and he got more.
And when you compare Schwarber and Pete Alonso over the past couple of seasons, It's really not that much. And this graphic on our YouTube shows since 2023, Pete Alonso has the higher WAR. He has the higher batting average. In terms of the OBP, the slug, the OPS, Kyle Schwarber leads, but they're all very similar. When you look at OPS plus, Kyle Schwarber's at 135. Pete Alonso is at 130. And if you look since 2021, again, it's pretty similar. OPS plus is even closer. Schwarber at 136. Pete Alonso at 134, and you see that Kyle Schwarber has 219 home runs. That is the third most since 2021. Pete Alonso has 195. That's the fourth most. So you got a guy who's younger, actually plays the position, and that's a big reason why he's got the higher WAR in that span. I would certainly pay $5 million more, especially when it's over a 5-year deal. So it's really just 1 million more per year to bring in Pete Alonso over a Kyle Schwarber. And the reason I wanted to talk about the money is I saw a lot of people online say that this was an overpay. Then you have to say the same thing about Schwarber.
Yeah,
unless
you're right.
Exactly. Unless you think that Schwarber is a lot better, but over the remaining 5 years of both of their deals, would I rather take Pete Alonso from ages 31 to 36 or Kyle Schwarber from ages 33 to 38? Next year, maybe Schwarber does have the better offensive season like he did last year. But over the entirety of the deal, at least from a WAR perspective, pretty confident that Pete Alonso will continue to lead. And I would not be surprised at all that over the next 5 years, Pete Alonso just is the better bat, and this was the better investment.
I mentioned his per season numbers over the last 4 seasons in our conversation with Aram, and they are prolific, and they are better than Schwarber's in terms of home run total. Obviously, Schwarber is coming off of a higher total, but when you look at well-rounded offensive game, Alonso takes the cake, and he takes the cake in run production more than really anybody else in baseball. You've got the top cream of the crop type talent, right? Like Judge is going to drive in 110 a year because he's Aaron Judge. Ohtani's going to drive in 100 a year because he's Shohei Ohtani. Schwarber, as he moved out of the leadoff spot, had the opportunity to produce runs. But a guy that has year in and year out since he debuted been a top 5 run producer in baseball, Pete Alonso can absolutely do that when you have Holiday getting on base. Jackson Holiday's calling card, he may not hit 25 homers this coming year, but I guarantee you he's going to walk a lot. Gunnar Henderson, he's going to get on base a lot. Adley Rutschman, what can this guy do? He can walk. The Orioles, I called it last year. I don't know where they stood, but I said Baltimore was going to lead Major League Baseball in pitches per plate appearance. It was a disappointing year for Baltimore in the whole, so that could have gone away. But if I had to make a pick, which team would lead Major League Baseball in pitches per plate appearance, it would be the Baltimore Orioles going into 2026. And that is a recipe made in heaven for Pete Alonso hitting third or fourth in this lineup.
And to that point, Pete Alonso has made adjustments when it comes to limiting the strikeouts, taking a little bit more walks, right? Pete Alonso posted the lowest strikeout rate of his career last year. And when you look again since 2021, between Schwarber and Pete Alonso, it's like a difference of a 7% in strikeout rate. So you get the guy who is going to put up similar power numbers and strike out a lot less. Now, Schwarber, I think still to this day, and will continue throughout his career, put up technically better ABs, right? He's one of the league leaders in walks every single year. And both are great hitters. No doubt about it. I'm just saying I think we would slightly prefer the younger one who can play a position over the older one. Yep. And that's why the Orioles only had to pay $5 million more over the next 5 years. So is it hard for me to fathom $31 million a year for Pete Alonso, $30 million a year for Schwarber? Sure. Yes, but that's the market now. We get surprised every offseason with the deals that these guys get. Also, I think the biggest winner here out of everyone is Pete Alonso.
Yeah,
he turned down that 7-year, $158 million deal from the Mets. And it took a while, but John Heyman tweeted this out. He ultimately, over those 7 years, is going to get $205 million. So he really, by doing all this, got an extra $50 million in the bank.
I just want to mention this, and I know that we have a graphic built for this. Last year, in the offseason, there were so many people that were trying to dunk on Pete Alonso for wanting, quote unquote, Prince Fielder money. We were not a show that was dunking on Pete Alonso for wanting Prince Fielder money. We were saying he should probably get Prince Fielder money. And what has he done over the course of those 7 years? He's gotten Prince Fielder money. Through 7 seasons, the world fell in love with Prince Fielder. He was worth 17 WAR. He hit 282 with 230 home runs. Meanwhile, Alonso is worth 7 more wins. And oh, by the way, he's given you 34 more homers, and he's given you nearly 70 more RBIs than Prince Fielder across that stretch. Prince hit 30 points higher. We loved that back then. We don't really care anymore. Prince had a higher OPS, 929 compared to 857. But when you look at a home run, RBI, game played, and WAR output, Pete Alonso takes the cake. And this guy should absolutely be on par with Prince Fielder. And we love Prince Fielder. I don't know why you hate Pete Alonso. This guy is absolutely worth that comp.
I think we're slightly overstepping. I think Prince Fielder was a better player at this point in their careers. But to your point, Prince Fielder signed a 9-year, $214 million contract. That was nearly 15 years ago. The market evolves.
Yeah.
And I know he was a little bit younger, but still, Pete Alonso just signed for 5 years for $155 million. So you could also make an argument that the Orioles, if we're basing it off past high-level first base play, because it's not like Prince Fielder was giving the Brewers excellent defense at first either. You were paying for the bat.
Yeah.
This does kind of make sense if we look at how the market has evolved, and you can make an argument based on that contract, even though Prince Fielder, I think, is better.
Yeah.
Not that much better. And the stats would say that it's not that big of a gap.
I want to pivot to Pete Alonso from the New York Mets lens in a moment. But before that, I do want to tell you about our new friends at Visual Edge. Visual Edge is an elite online sports vision training system used by MLB, minor league, college, youth baseball players around the world. They help athletes train the visual side of performance. It's something players never train, but they rely on every single pitch. More than 20 years of experience working with MLB clubs to identify talent in the draft, Visual Edge, visual with a Z, tests virtually every hitter each year in the draft. All you got to do, start with the Edge test. It's a 15-minute online assessment measuring the 6 core visual processing skills that directly correlate with pitch recognition, timing, reaction speeds, plate discipline, clean decisions, and overall consistency at the plate. When these skills are weak, obviously, players can struggle. Training is customized to each user based on their assessment score. All it is, a 15-minute session a couple of times per week, all online on your own laptop or your own iPad. So who uses Visual Edge? Aaron Judge, Ke'Bryan Hayes, Tommy Edman, Nico Horner, D1 programs, top high school programs, travel programs, and Visual Edge is also partnered with Prep Baseball. Aaron Judge started using Visual Edge in 2020. He's stuck with it for the last 5 years. And oh, by the way, he has 3 American League MVPs over the course of his 5 years using Visual Edge. Ke'Bryan Hayes, Tommy Edman, Nico Horner, they've all won gold gloves during their use of Visual Edge. And this program is for anyone looking to improve their baseball performance, even as young as 7 years old. Think of Visual Edge as weight training for your eyes and your brain. Before players go out and hit batting practice, they should be training their eyes just like you stretch before you lift weights. Parents want better focus, more consistent performances, and something measurable. Visual Edge gives them that. Data, objective scoring, training that improves performance, and a direct way to help kids get better. Hitters have less than 400 milliseconds to react to a pitch. Hitters know that their eyes are important, but very few are taking action to start training one of the most important skills in their game, their vision. So if you want to hit better, recognize pitches faster, and make more confident decisions at the plate, Visual Edge is the place to start. Their Black Friday sale continues through New Year's. It's the biggest sale of the year, 55% off all plans and subscriptions with code JUSTBASEBALL. All caps, one word. It's a great way to try the product if you're unsure about it, a phenomenal holiday gift. Can't go outside and shag fly balls or scrimmage. It's the perfect time to get on board and try it out before you head into the cage for your winter workout. No extra hardware, no gimmicks, just real results proven to help your performance at the plate and on the field. Head to visualedge.com/sign up to get started today. That's visual with a Z, edge.com/sign up. I want to pivot now to the Met lens for Pete Alonso. This is a much more loaded conversation. Get into that with Aram Leighton momentarily. But where are you standing right now if you were a diehard New York Mets fan?
Well, if I'm a diehard New York Mets fan, I'm falling apart. Point blank, period. I see it all online, and I totally understand. It's one thing to lose Edwin Diaz. It's even another thing to lose Pete Alonso. But in a 24-hour period, and these aren't just losing good players. These are players incredibly important to who the Mets are. Edwin Diaz has been closing out games for the Mets for a while. When he got hurt in the WBC, Buck Showalter came out recently and said, there goes the season. That's how important he was to them. Pete Alonso, all-time Mets home run leader. That's where he got his nickname coined, the Polar Bear. He got drafted by the Mets. In 2019, wins Rookie of the Year, hits 53 home runs. And then since then has just been, literally since he debuted, is leading Major League Baseball in RBIs. Mets fans, when they watch a Mets game and they see whoever they have on second and third, they trust Pete Alonso to bring him in. And there's not a lot of players in Major League Baseball that you can do that, right? He's won home run derbies for them. He has been a fan favorite for a really long time. So these aren't just losing two good players. The Mets are losing two of their guys. Mets fans wanted Pete Alonso to retire in a Mets uniform. And unfortunately, he will not be doing that. And Edwin Diaz goes to the Dodgers, the team that beat them in the NLCS just a few years ago. But the reason I'm not going to eviscerate them is the offseason is not over yet. And I'm sure you share this same feeling, you have a lot of trust in Dave Stearns. We still believe that Stearns is one of the best general managers in the sport.
Yeah.
And I don't think after losing these two guys, he says, you know what? Pack it up, folks. That was our off season. This is too sad right now. I'm done. In a vacuum, I get where he's coming from. Edwin Diaz, $23 million per year for a closer in their 30s. Again, just on the surface, doesn't sound great. A 31-year-old first baseman DH until their age 36 season for $31 million per year. On the surface, doesn't sound great, right? That's the only credit I'm giving him. That's it. Where you at?
There are a couple of different ways that you can look at this, I think. Number one is this David Stearns falling in love, or I guess falling back in love with the way that he was heading a front office in Milwaukee. It's just a different beast. You're playing a different game in Milwaukee and in Queens, especially with that ownership in New York. You're playing a different game. You should be spending your way out of trouble, not developing and identifying your way out of trouble. I don't think that that's an awesome practice. And I do understand how the New York Mets are, even getting close to breaking even. They spend so much money on players, payroll, and tax. Think about the penalties that they pay every single year. They are throwing money at the league saying, we're sorry for spending way, way more than you. And I understand that Major League Baseball teams make a lot of money. I think that there's a nice balance here, and I feel like we're skewing, at least right now, so far in the direction of, okay, let's do this like a heady, smart, great executive instead of, we're the Mets. Let's just give the Polar Bear $160 million and call it a day. We're the Mets. Let's just give Diaz $100 million and call it a day. I think that there's a balancing act there. And I do think that some of this actually falls on Steve Cohen to say, listen, I'm the final boss. Absolutely. I say yes and no, and I want Pete in a Mets uniform. Make it happen. He didn't do that. So I really can't blame David Stearns for this because Steve Cohen didn't make him do it.
I'm so glad you brought that up because there is no way Juan Soto's $765 million contract fit into Dave Stearns' model. But what did Steve Cohen do? He said, I'm worth $23 billion. I'm one of the richest people in the world. I brought up a list on my TikTok and I was like, richest owners. We already know he's at the top. I want to look at richest people in the world. He's up there. I mean, the show Billions is about him. Imagine having a TV show called Billions.
And it's about you.
And it's about you. And do you know also he's creating a casino sports betting bar in Queens near the stadium.
That area around the ballpark was brutal. Like you had all the scrap yards and everything there. I understand the overhaul for the casino.
I understand too, but at the end of the day, it's a casino. They're certainly going to make money there.
One of my favorite tweets about this whole deal was from Ian Rappaport, the football guy. Rap Sheet. Did you see Rap Sheets?
I didn't.
So Ian Rappaport is a Mets fan, and he quote tweeted the report. And he said, I am not well, but, and then he did the Bart Simpson in detention thing. Don't judge an offseason until it's over. Don't judge an offseason until it's over. Don't judge an offseason until it's over. And he repeated that like 10 times. And I love that from Ian Rappaport because he's right. At the end of the day, this is a gut punch. And this is the final of 3 major gut punches in trading Nimmo.
It happened in 24 hours. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just think it's so important to say that it's such a gut punch, and both happened in 24 hours of each
24 hours in Diaz and Alonso's case, but then we're less than 2 weeks removed from Nimmo getting traded. Like that one hurt as much as the other two, I think, for Mets fans, because Nimmo's been there from the jump. They drafted that guy.
And on top of it, you're bringing in Semien to improve your defense. You're losing a better bat. That's what we talked about. We still don't mind the trade. But I think we all can agree you'd rather have Brandon Nimmo's bat next year than Marcus Semien. So you are downgrading offensively to go to Semien, and then you downgrade even more. Like Stearns has this belief that first basemen are not worth what they get paid in the market. But I think that's a little bit short-sighted, realizing how desperately they need a guy like Pete Alonso in the middle of their lineup. Because you look at the Mets' current lineup right now. Peyton, if you could pull up the graphic. It ain't pretty for all those watching on YouTube.
Lindor, Semien, good stuff. Yeah.
Like Lindor, Semien, and Soto. You're already a little bit nervous about Semien. Then you got Vientos, McNeil, Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, and Tyrone Taylor. Now, I do think Carson Bench is going to be your center fielder, and I'm excited to see what Carson Bench does in his rookie year, but that's not even a playoff lineup. And then your rotation, McLean, Peterson, Holmes, Minaya, and Senga. Yikes. And then your bullpen, you got Devin Williams. And then what? Minter, Alzolay, Brooks Raley, Huascar Brazaban?
Yeah.
This is a 500 team when it comes to the roster right now.
Can we acknowledge how bad that bench is, too?
It's all rookies and not so great
projected
players.
Bench right now is Luis Torrens, Luis Angel Acuna, Jared Young, and Ji-Hwan Bae.
Ji-Hwan Bae got ousted from the Pirates bench.
He couldn't stick on the Pirate bench. He was in Indianapolis a heck of a lot more than he was in Pittsburgh over the last 3-4 years.
But again, offseason isn't over. But if we're talking about biggest losers of the offseason so far, it's the Mets and then 50 feet of crap and then the rest of them.
Right now. But there is so much more room. And here's the thing. Do they have to spend some money? Yes, they do. I think that money can look a bunch of different ways.
Like Paul Goldschmidt and Jeff McNeil platoon at first.
Yeah, Josh Bell. Frank the Tank wants Josh Bell, right? I think I saw that. He was screaming earlier today. Here's the thing, man.
I don't even care. He makes me laugh. He does. I know
Frank?
it's stupid.
I think he's hilarious.
I'm not even a Mets hater. I just he's just so insane. Like he said a couple of good bars. He said that Devin Williams is going to play "Let It Go," like the
Frozen
track,
song.
the Frozen song. That's objectively funny when he comes in instead of the trumpets. That's funny.
It's really funny. He also had some generational rants when the Marlins took 2 or 3 from the Mets to end the season. It was awesome. It was so good. I absolutely loved it. And I know the Marlins players, like, they immediately ran to their phone to look at the Frank the Tank rant because they were all about it. But yeah, man, I just think that they can spend in a whole bunch of different ways. Number one, if they are still Steve Cohen's New York Mets, and I think deep down they are, then they should immediately skyrocket to the top of the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes. So left field can look a heck of a lot better if you have Kyle Tucker out there as opposed to Jeff McNeil.
What if you put him in right field?
You put him in right and you put Soto where?
First.
No.
Why not? He can't play the outfield anyway.
He's making too much money to be a first baseman at this point.
You didn't pay him to play outfield. You paid him to be one of the best bats in Major League Baseball history.
I just don't think that you shove that guy at first base
Phillies
for the first time in his life.
Phillies did it with Harper, and he adjusted well. Juan Soto's a good athlete. I just had that idea, like, kind of during this podcast when we were talking. If you can go out outfielders, what if they add Bellinger and Tucker? They are Steve Cohen's Mets at the end of the day.
Why wouldn't you have Bellinger play first base in that case?
Yeah, you can do that, but I prefer Bellinger's defense in the outfield far more than Juan Soto's.
Sure, I just wonder how much. Yeah, I wonder how much you're looking to optimize outfield defense when Juan Soto's on your roster. So, for the sake of not messing with the $765 million man,
I'm saying you can optimize your defense in the outfield. You already had a poor defensive first baseman in Pete Alonso last year. If you give Juan Soto an offseason to adjust and get him going, he is a good enough athlete. Like, how bad could it be? And then you have actual good defenders in the outfield. Like, let's say they went Bellinger, Benj, and Tucker. They could go a bunch of different ways. Could they trade for outfielders? Could they do it that way? I just feel like more outfielders are available, and that instantly solves the first base issue. And it also takes Juan Soto's terrible glove out of right field.
Yeah.
Not a perfect plan. I'm just saying keep it in the back of your mind because I think it's a possibility.
You'll hear Aram allude to this. He mentioned Ryan Clifford had a really good year in the minor leagues. Top 100 prospect, mashed in the upper minors. He can play first base. I see your eyes. You're pissed off that I even brought up the prospect.
How many rookies are we starting in this Mets lineup in 2020?
Not many. I think Benj deserves to be there, and then Clifford deserves to get a little bit of runway, but I don't think too much. Here's my thing. If they sign Bellinger, and Bellinger can either play a corner outfield or first base, depending on what else you fill out, there are a couple other guys that can move. Something they need to do is a pitching overhaul, and I feel like they are sitting on that, and they are going to do it at some point. I will bet you they signed 2 of the top 5 free agent pitchers available right now. I think Fromber is going to New York, and then I think one of Ranger Suarez or Tetsuya Imai is also going to New York.
I think they're going to sign one and trade for one.
So apparently David Peterson is available.
I don't think they're good because Dave Stearns already came out and said that he doesn't want to lock in to these long-term starting pitching deals. He already said this.
I think at this point you have to maybe readjust your offseason. I have no idea if this is going according to plan for them.
I agree with you. I don't think he will because clearly he has the stones to let Edwin Diaz walk and Pete Alonso walk in a 24-hour period. And he's also willing to trade a fan favorite in Brandon Nimmo to the Rangers in order to get an aging, good defensive second baseman in Marcus Semien. He clearly does not care about what people like you and I, and especially New York Sports Radio, says about him. He's going to create
Cardinals on for 5 hours a day now on FAN. He's back for like the 5th time.
I got to go listen to all 5 hours of that. Riveting.
You and me both, man.
Yeah, I do love my New York Sports Radio in part just because I like funny. I think it's so entertaining with all these guys yelling about nothing.
John and Schenectady scream my ear off for a little bit.
Stan from Long Island just ripping these GMs to shreds. It's hilarious. You got me off track. I was talking. Right. What was I talking about?
I mean, you mentioned that Stearns is not willing to go long on a lot of starting pitchers, and I totally get that. But like, I do think that plan. I do think Framber Valdez is a New York Met. I do. I think that he fills out the bullpen with some pretty solid guys. Is that Robert Suarez? I have no idea, but Tyler Rogers is still sitting out there. Why not bring him back? There are plenty of good setup guys that are on the market right now that he can go fill out that bullpen with. I guarantee you that bullpen looks pretty damn good going into spring training. There are so many relievers still out there on the market right now. But when I look at the lineup, I see all these tradable assets that I think that they are going to turn into something pretty good. Why can't you package Jeff McNeil and David Peterson for someone? Why can't you package Kodai Senga with a prospect for someone? Plenty of teams still want Senga. At the end of the day, this guy was untouchable before the All-Star break. He was unusable after the All-Star break, but there's still a ton of promise there, and the contract is not that egregious. They have assets that they can move and get legit stuff in return, and this is where I feel like David Stearns can cook and start to optimize.
We'll see. They have, like, I don't know how many teams truly want Senga, and I see what you mean when you're talking about packaging like Jeff McNeil and David Peterson. I don't think they'd be in the same deal, but I think what you mean is all of those are tradable assets in order to get big league assets that you'd prefer.
McNeil, Peterson, Senga, hell, is Vientos available now if you want to go get someone to play first base? Who are they married to? If you're not married to them, you can trade them and go get decent stuff.
Yeah. And they have this incredible farm system, to credit Dave Stearns, that they've been able to build.
Yeah.
Again, they could make huge splashes. They could make deals for guys that nobody has talked about. You know, we hear all these rumors out of San Diego about AJ Preller wants to make enormous moves. We'll see. But one thing about that report that I do tend to agree with is AJ Preller wants to make huge moves. Could that mean trading for Tatis? All I'm saying is I don't want to end the Mets offseason now. Is it totally fine? Is it totally understandable that Mets fans are having a fit online about this? Absolutely. These are fan favorites guys. And then you heard the reports after that they lowballed Diaz and then never even gave Pete Alonso an offer. It was reported that they were willing to potentially go 3 years, but then it was reported after that during the negotiations, they never actually extended him an official offer. Knowing all of that and knowing how important those two were to the Mets' success, totally okay to want to fire Dave Stearns now. The one piece of advice I will give these fans, and it's going to take a couple of days for it to really set in, maybe even longer than that, trust in Stearns. There's a reason that Cohen brought him in. There's a reason he had so much success in Milwaukee. This guy's as smart as they come. This offseason ain't over.
You want to spend 20 minutes on the Rule 5 draft?
Absolutely not.
Me neither. So we are waiting on one more person's take on the Alonso deal. This literally happened right after Alonso put pen to paper and the news was broken. This is a conversation with Aram Layton, who is in Orlando just a little bit earlier today. Orlando, Aram Layton just did a little lap around the winter meetings right after Pete Alonso put pen to paper for 5 for 155 with the Baltimore Orioles. I would say, hey, how are you? How's the winter meetings going? But we'll get to that like 5 to 10 minutes into this spot. What's your knee-jerk reaction to this? Is it Met related or is it Oriole related?
It's not Met related, but I did. So it wasn't Met related. Then I opened Twitter, and then I saw every Met fan making it about themselves.
What does this mean for the Mets?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No one speak to me. Like, just, let's make it about yourself. No, but like, of course, that's just the self-deprecating Mets fan there. My immediate mind just went to, well, the O's ain't done now, right? Here we go, because they're in the Edward Cabrera sweepstakes potentially. And I know you can't really speak on that, but like, I'd be remiss to not bring it up. Right. Well, Kobe Mayo seems excessive now. Like, could that be a 1-for-1 swap that makes a lot of sense for both sides? But even so, like, that makes it an even better signing for the Orioles, because even if it isn't Edward Cabrera, maybe Kobe Mayo now becomes some of the best trade bait that there could be in terms of prospect capital. We talked about on the show like the other day, right? You asked, like, who could be the best prospect traded at the deadline? I'm like, traded in the offseason. I'm like,
I guess Bryce Eldridge. We settled on Bryce Eldridge in San Francisco being the answer. I know Kobe Mayo has exhausted his prospect eligibility, but if you were to view just young bats in
Very
the upper
comparable.
levels of the big leagues. I think Mayo's better. I would much rather have Mayo than Eldridge at this point, I think.
You'll get pushback on that only because Eldridge hasn't gotten up to the big leagues to struggle yet, which he will. I promise. Like, he'll be good. I think he's going to be a good player, but I think it's going to be a similar process of like, okay, it's going to take some time. He's going to whiff a little bit. Eldridge got up for such a small cup of. I guess he did get up and struggle enough. Maybe we'll see. Once you do a parts of 2 seasons, everyone's out on you though. That's usually how it works, right? So,
yeah.
No, I think that it's very comparable in terms of asset value, or at least just the intrigue. I think Eldridge, because a little bit more unknown, left-handed bat, maybe a little bit more power, maybe. But I mean, you look at Mayo's track record; it's pretty damn good, man. It's just a matter of putting it together at the highest level. I think that opens up some opportunities for them here now, which makes it even more fascinating. You might say, oh, they didn't really need a first baseman. No, but now they just got, the best right-handed bat they probably could, and now you can utilize the excess that you may have to go address the other need. So if you didn't want to go spend $150 million, if you looked at all these pitchers and said, I don't like any of them enough. I don't like MI enough. I don't like Fromber enough. I don't like I'm nervous about Rangers velo downtick. I don't want to pay these guys $100+ million, but I know that if I pay Pete Alonso $100+ million, he's going to mash. So instead, let's go make a trade for an arm with control, and let's sign Pete, and let's use the excess to go get an arm. I get it, and I like it. And, we'll see what they do from here. But again, I feel pretty confident that it's going to be something impactful. I think they're going to go trade for their arm now. Yeah.
Pete Alonso over his last 4 years. I'm actually going to do the thing where you just look at the last 4 years and you average those out. His per 162 over the course of his career is absolutely insane, hitting .253 with 42 homers and 114 driven in. He's coming off a year where he hit .270 with 41 doubles. He led the National League, 38 pumps and 126 driven in. But his last 4 years, .270 with 40 homers and 131 driven in. In 23, .217, but 46 homers and 118 driven in. In 24, .240 with 34 homers, 88 driven in. And then this past year, .272 with 38 and 126. This guy does the standard number better than any other run producer in Major League Baseball. I think Kyle Schwarber is in that breath, but if the Orioles matched the Philly offer at 5 for 150, struck out, this was the perfect pivot. I understand that Pete hits from the right side and not the left side. Aside from that, for me at least, there really ain't much separating Kyle Schwarber and Pete Alonso. Can Pete hit 56? I don't know, but Pete is a shoe-in to hit 35. He can push up to 50, and he'll drive in runs better than anybody not named Schwarber.
Well, and I think he's gonna put the ball in play more consistently. He's gonna rack up, doubles and singles and everything else too. So it's gonna be a pretty similar WRC plus and overall production, if not better, by the end of the year. The interesting thing too, and is you look at what this does for their lineup as well. Now they added 2 right-handed bats. You got Taylor Ward in there, and you got Pete Alonso in there. And now there's just, I think, a good balance to things now all of a sudden, because you look at Beavers looking like he's going to carve out a pretty significant role with them. Colton Cowser going to be healthy and perform. You have Basayo is clearly a big building block. Then you have Gunnar and Holiday. There was points where they just felt a little too left-handed heavy, right? And now it seems like in a market where Dave Dombrowski talked about it, there was not a lot of right-handed bats out there. The Orioles did a great job of trading for one in Ward, even though I don't like how they did it, and going to sign the top right-handed bat they could get. So I think this is a really exciting time for Orioles fans that they very much deserve. And we've been pounding the table's just begging for them to do this, and it's exciting. And now all of a sudden, like Tyler O'Neill, it's like, okay, now he's like a house money guy for you. And I shouldn't say house money because they're paying him a lot of money, but whatever happens is just bonus, it feels like. And now again, I think they're very well equipped to go address that rotation via trade, which I think makes things really fun. They also claimed Drew Romo the other day, which I know is more of a call-up thing, but a good reclamation project there. See if you can get him right after just getting out of the worst organization in baseball. I like that little depth addition as well. Like Leody Taveras, the bench is shaping up. Like Jeremiah Jackson was awesome last year. But I am really interested to see what this means for Kobe Mayo and the rest of this ball club. But it's going to be fun, I think, to
You
see
see
what
who's behind you
what they
right
do.
now?
No.
You have to
Oh,
see who's behind you.
Kevin
right
Burrell.
now. He's on the Just Baseball show. Great to Kevin Burrell to show up and hang out here.
He
but
said, "I
Kevin
heard
Burrell-
Kobe Mayo. I had to come peek over." Yeah, Kevin. What do you think the chances are of now Kobe Mayo to the Marlins?
I heard he was a Florida Panthers fan, so
You got to give me more than that. You're as tapped in as anybody on the Marlins beat.
hey, the Cabrera market's heating up. That's what I know, and Orioles are definitely a team that wants them. So I made a trade proposal. It was Cabrera for Mayo and Boston Bateman, and I'll leave you to discuss your thoughts.
Give me another team just in case. Edward Cabrera. Where's the next most likely team?
Cubs, the Cubbies.
The Cubs.
Cubbies make a big splash.
Okay. Thank
I
you,
won't
Kevin
discuss any
Burrell.
of that, but shout out Kevin Burrell,
Yeah.
who is as strong on the Marlins beat as absolutely anyone. I love Kevin Burrell, and that was
And
a heck of a spot
just
for
a
him to make
grinder,
his-
man.
Yeah, just a grinder.
It's just
Heck of a
baseball show
spot for him to
debut.
make his- JB show debut. So
I
good
love
from
that
Kevin
kid.
Burrell.
I love that guy.
Wrapping up my O's thoughts real quick, I was just thinking after this Alonso deal, they are a blank and blank away from being a legit World Series contender. And I think the answer is they're a starter and a reliever away from being a legit World Series contender, because we can play the on-paper game with that lineup, and it's damn near flawless, assuming full health. Adley Rutschman is... With this signing of Alonso, Adley Rutschman quickly turns into one of, if not the biggest X factors in Major League Baseball for me. If Adley can recapture that top 3 catcher in baseball type talent, that lineup is unfreaking believable. And if they can use these assets that they have, Kobe Mayo, Ryan Mountcastle, to go get a starting pitcher, whether it's Mayo for a starter and Mountcastle for a reliever, Mountcastle can get you a good reliever. Mayo can get you a good starter. You have options here that are effectively internal with trade chips that you can make your team a hell of a lot better and legit propel yourself into World Series contention in 26.
I mean, you're 100% correct on the X factor. And I think you could almost zoom it out to the catching position period, right? Because if and I know it's a bigger if from a rookie, but if Basayo is even just 60 to 70% of what we think he can ultimately be, and you get, again, even just Adley Rutschman, 80% of what he previously was. Holy crap, they're getting as much production from the catching position as anybody in baseball. And they have 2 bats there that are going to be a lot more productive than what they had last year. I think he is as big of an X factor as you got. They already added Helsley, and he's a good bounce back candidate, right? But I agree, they need to go get another reliever. I am really excited about a full year of Bradish. I think what he showed in 6 starts last year, like he was clearly back and ready to go. I'm very interested for the follow-up from Trevor Rogers.
Yes.
But I would say they need 2 starters, maybe 2.
I understand that. Yeah,
But
and there's a way you can do that, like Merrill Kelly and someone you trade
yeah,
for.
exactly.
That works.
I was going to say like 1.5, right? But it's like you need, I think, one impactful arm, and then go get Merrill Kelly type of guy, or go make that trade. They're in a fun spot, and again, that's why I don't think they're close to done. But it's funny now. You look at the Mets situation, and now they got a lot of work to do, right? I mean, they need to figure some things out, because this roster is. I mean, does this now mean that you keep Mark Vientos and you put him at first? That's a volatile option there, right? He had a 97 WRC plus last season, though he came on a little bit better at the end of the year. Are you rolling with Brett Beatty at third? I think that's okay. But I'm just interested to see what they do now, because they got a lot of production to replace. And I don't think counting on Vientos to do it is setting yourself up for success here. So, I mean, you look at the roster resource right now, and I mean, they're clearly not,
right.
They're far from done. But right now, because you got to have placeholder guys in the roster resource, you've got Vientos at first. You've got Mauricio in the DH spot. You've got Tyrone Taylor in center field, though at least you have Ben as the compliment there. I'm fine with Beatty at third. I think he had a nice year. And you've got McNeil left. That's not a very good team. Yeah, of course it helps when you have Soto and Lindor, but how are they going to be better than last year with that situation? The answer would probably be Nolan McLean, but they've got to figure some things out. You also lost Edwin. look, I can understand letting Edwin walk at that price point and letting Pete walk at that price point because Stearns is going to try to be efficient and effective. But it depends on what you do after that, right? And
Yes.
now are they going to, if the reaction to this is then to go aggressively after Murakami, you then just shedded one of, as you alluded to or highlighted earlier, one of the more consistent run producers in the sport. Now you go get one of the more wider range of outcome producers potentially that's going to come over this coming season. More volatility on this team. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I just don't know how Stearns reacts to this and what the fallout is going to be. Is it shooting for the stars and lowering your floor, or is it piecing things together in a different way? And I'm very interested to find out.
Yeah. So my stream of consciousness as it pertained to this was, and by the way, I have the per season numbers over the last 4 for Pete Alonso, age 27 to 30 seasons. He has averaged 160 games played, 30 doubles, 40 homers, 116 driven in, hitting 251 with a 501 slug and 300 total bases. This guy is an accumulator unlike really anyone else that we have in Major League Baseball. And it's kind of nice. One of the beasts of the NL East is out of the NL East. I saw Marlins fans rejoicing on Twitter saying, like, the Marlin killer's out of town finally. But there were a couple of different ways that I immediately went as it pertained to the Mets. Number one, credit to David Stearns for not caring about optics whatsoever. Number two, these are horrible optics, moving Nimmo, Diaz, and Alonso, or at least moving Nimmo and then not retaining Diaz and Alonso in the same offseason. Number three, are they going to try and win between the margins, or are they now all of a sudden right back to the top of the leaderboard for Kyle Tucker? Or are they like I saw the reports about David Peterson possibly being on the move. Could David Peterson be on the move for a serviceable bat in your lineup? McNeil is on the move as well. There are plenty of teams that would take on Jeff McNeil and David Peterson for a good young bat. And then you just go spam the pitching market. Frommer, welcome aboard. Ranger Suarez, welcome aboard. Hell, Imai, welcome aboard too. They have the opportunity to spend stupid money right now. Question is Stearns going to do that? Because what he's done so far in this offseason signals anything but a willingness to spend stupid money.
Yes, and I think maybe they're positioning themselves to spend stupid money intelligently. Like,
yeah, sure.
Like if that makes sense, right? Like, because I think for Stearns, it doesn't fit his mold to go spend that kind of money for a Pete Alonso type of player. And, I think that the argument that Stearns would give you is, well, I mean, I love Nimmo and I appreciate Pete Alonso, but like, what did good optics get us? Like, what has that group accomplished? Like, yes, they made a little bit of a run in one postseason spot. They're only getting older. The team has deficiencies. Running it back with those guys at a more expensive rate is not really, I think, setting yourself up to make the team better. So look, if they don't make moves after this, that you can follow the logic and say this sets them up better for short-term and long-term,
sure,
then I think Mets fans have every reason to be upset. But the same Mets fans that are complaining about, oh my gosh, baseball with the Mets without Pete, the Mets without Nimmo, are the same ones complaining about being stuck. So which one is it? And I understand that those guys aren't the reason why you were stuck, but I think you have to be okay with shaking it up and seeing what else they can figure out over here and how they can change things to, try to put this team over the top. Because with the amount of money that they're allocating, with what they can do here, in the contract that you have, towards Soto, you can't really allocate the kind of money I think that they would have needed to for Pete Alonso to just go play first base. I think it needs to go to the pitching side of things. I think it does need to go to some more important spots for them. And I think Stearns feels confident in his ability to, of course, not completely replace Alonso's production, but go get it, a solid, productive bat at first base. So I think is upsetting as it is, and I understand it. And I think, sometimes I got to remind myself and put myself in the fan shoes.
Sure.
I wouldn't fully lose my mind until I know what they're going to do, because
Yeah.
this isn't a mid-market team. This isn't the Reds, and I'm glad you freaking ripped them, because that's a joke. If you're
I
capable
didn't.
of
That was
spending,
really just Peter. Yeah.
yeah, if you're capable of spending money, if you're interested enough to spend money, but then you're not going to spend any. Like, you could spend 40 plus AAV, but then you're not going to spend more than 5 or 10, and the only difference is because the guy's from Ohio. Like, that's a problem, right? I don't think the Mets are saying, like, okay, well, we made a run at Alonso, and now we're not going to sign him, so now we're going to go bargain hunting. Like, no, they're going to go to try to allocate that money into spots in the roster that they feel more confident about. Also, Ryan Clifford is a top 100 prospect for us, and a guy that was fantastic in the upper minors last year and could be worthy of a shot at first base. And then they allocate more money to some other spots that are more important to them. They need to figure out the pitching side of things. They still need to address the bullpen a little bit more. I think it's easier to figure out the offensive side of things, as tough as it is to see Pete go.
Yes, and you win a lot of fans back over if you swap out Alonso and Nimmo for Kyle Tucker or something like that.
Yes,
You know,
and if you win games, like,
yeah,
if you
exactly.
win games,
Winning games, there's more work to do, I guess, if they go Bellinger instead of Tucker. But if they go Tucker, it's like, okay, you kind of understand what they're doing here. So,
how many starters do they need realistically? I mean,
15.
Nolan McLean. How many?
Yeah.
How many starters do you trust on this team going into next year? The number 2, like, most trusted arm is Clay Holmes, and he faded like crazy at the end of last year. And the Orioles aren't great.
I'd say, can I say?
And your number 1 arm
in
is a rookie. It's a rookie who started 8 games. He's amazing. You know, I love him. I think he's going to be fantastic. But you can't put all your eggs in that basket.
No, I'll say 3 because I'm accounting for McLean, Holmes, and then half of Peterson and half of Sproat at this point. That's what I've got. Manaya, I'm out on the trust factor. Sanga, incredibly available, extremely available, whatever
extremely
it is.
available. And then whatever you get from Tong. So yeah, they got a lot to figure out. And you know, I don't think, like, the last thing I'll bring up on this, if they brought back Pete Alonso, what was the exact number again that he signed with
5
for
for
the
155?
Okay, which is funny, right after Schwarber. You bring back Pete Alonso 5 for 155. You now, and I know it's Steve Cohen, but he's not going to just spend $1 trillion. You now have less budget, and you still have the same problems, all of the same problems.
Yes.
This allows them, I think, if they allocate that money, to address multiple spots here. So we'll see. If they don't, then trust me, I'll be on the forefront of it. So I'm going to say, well, if you're going to be mediocre, you might as well be mediocre with good PR. Yeah. But I don't think that's the plan here. And I'd say wait, be patient. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll let you go in a minute. How have the winter meetings been?
It's been fun. Hey, you thought it was going to be a little bit more dormant than this, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
It's been a little bit more exciting, and we still got the main event coming up in about 30 minutes here, which is the Rule 5 draft.
Are you talking about the major league or the minor league phase? Because I view the minor league phase as the main event.
Yeah, I'm going to be on pins and needles for the minor league phase, but the major league phase, I'm excited about. I think we'll see a handful of players picked. I like Alex Pham a lot. I'm going to try to call my shot. I hope Hendrik Pinango gets taken. Someone give my guy a shot. I think Victor Rodriguez is going to get, Jose Rodriguez is going to get taken. 6'6", nasty changeup. It's always a fun exercise, and we'll break that down on the call up. But the winter meetings has been fun. Met a lot of really good people, and it's always entertaining.
Good. Shout out Kevin Burrell, Arm Layden. Hope you enjoyed in Orlando. And before we let you go, do want to shout out the event that we're doing in Miami on Friday, which is going to be awesome. We're going to be at the Lids at Dolphin Mall from 2 to 4 p.m. with Jeff and Griffin Conine for a really cool card release that we got going on.
Yep. I can't wait. I really can't wait because, I mean, one, we're hunting Griff's debut patch, and that's going to be fun. But we're raising money, more importantly, for a great cause, Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital, and in Conine's clubhouse there. Jeff and Griff are going to be signing stuff. We're going to be just having a blast. And there's going to be pack wars, giving away signed jerseys, all this good stuff. So come hang out, come raise money for a good cause, and let's go have some fun.
Again, the Lids at Dolphin Mall on Friday, this coming December 12th from 2 to 4 p.m. Dolphin Mall in Miami. come one, come all, and hang out with us because it is going to be great. Arm Layton, appreciate you. Go enjoy the Rule 5 draft. Okay, so what a difference 4 hours can make, because in that 4-hour stretch, Griffin Conine's debut patch was pulled by a breaker just on like a live stream, and that was a meteoric gut punch. But hang out with Jeff and Griffin, like hunt for other debut patches and a whole bunch of Griffin rookie cards as well. Again, that's at the Dolphin Mall in South Florida on Friday at 2:00. We're going to be there from 2 to 4. And it's going to be a great time there at Lids. But that's like so tough. You wish that it worked out the Skeens way, where the debut patch is like pulled by a kid that's innocent, and like got the pack, got the box for Christmas or his birthday or whatever it is, and you can have like a wholehearted conversation there. But like a breaker on a stream, it's tough. And I don't want to throw shade because we love doing the live card breaks at Just Baseball, but so brutal when it's like, oh yeah, let's go hunt. This is going to be great. And then all of a sudden it just gets pulled.
Yeah, 100%. It is tough, but what can you do? And it is pretty cool that made news, that his debut patch was something that a lot of guys
really cool.
were hunting for. And I think that's at least the silver lining of it. Just a few more things that I wanted to bring up before we end the episode, Jack.
Yeah.
The Tigers signed Kyle Finnegan into a 2-year, $19 million deal that just slid under the rug.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty damn good deal. Now, I know he's 34 years old, but Kyle Finnegan, ever since he debuted, has been wildly consistent. Since he debuted, this guy's never put up an ERA above 3.8. He went over to the Tigers last year at the deadline. It's not a big sample, but 18 innings, giving up just 3 earned runs. That's a 1.50 ERA. I know there are a lot of bullpen arms available, but you traded for a guy and it worked in Detroit, and then they brought him back on a really reasonable contract, right? We're seeing guys like Diaz get $69 million and Devin Williams get $50 million plus. And now, of course, Kyle Finnegan isn't those guys. But if you're comparing just straight up numbers over the last few years, he's not a far cry away. And he's only going to make $9 million, a little bit more a year. I thought it was a good under the radar signing. Any thoughts on that? I have one more thought on the Minnesota Twins, actually.
No, I mean, Finnegan, like, it's interesting that he got 2 for 19. That's a lot to me. But you start to see these tier 2 relievers start to fall off the market. I look at tier 1. It's tough because Edwin Diaz probably sat alone in tier 1. And then tier 2 is probably Devin Williams, Robert Suarez. Helsley, I'd still consider a tier 2 reliever, but he's approaching tier 3. But like, Helsley got 2 for 24. Finnegan got 2 for 19. Emilio Pagan got 2 for 20. So if that's the market for those guys, I also put Fairbanks in the Devin Williams, Robert Suarez clump. Fairbanks is probably going to get 2 for 30 at this point, which is a lot of money, but I understand why. Kyle Finnegan is kind of the start of that 2-year deal. I look at the Mets and I'm like, okay, the Mets need 3 Kyle Finnegans. If they got to spend $60 million across total money and they got to spend $18 million a year or $20 million a year on 3 relievers, that's like a sizable chunk there. And I look at these 2-year deals and I say, okay, Finnegan got it. Phil Maton got a cheaper one, but like if Finnegan and Pagan are getting that, why can't Luke Weaver get that, right? Why can't Tyler Rogers get that? So I do start to see the secondary reliever market get going, and that looks like a guy like Kyle Finnegan.
Yeah, I agree. Next up on the docket, our guy Sean Donnie, who said no Twins talk. Please, Peter, talk about serious teams. Per Dan Hayes, covers the Twins for The Athletic, the Twins are interested in Rhys Hoskins, Josh Bell, or Ryan O'Hearn. No. But Twins fans told me that I was being too hard on them because they can still rally behind this core and add some free agents. Now you can bargain hunt for Rhys Hoskins or Josh Bell, or you can go all in for Ryan O'Hearn. This is an unserious team. I'm sorry. It's an unserious team. And This is also a podcast that has foolishly backed the Twins over the years. This is not a podcast that has routinely shit on the Twins for anything.
I picked them
bet
to
on
win the
them
World Series at like the beginning. I think it was
Yeah.
2022. I picked them to win the World Series and they finished last. One of those years that they finished last.
We have liked the Twins. And another comment for our guy Sean. The core won 70 games. I just, you see this market, especially with the Mets now, seemingly in desperate need to trade for some guys with the impending lockout. It feels like the Nationals just got Harry Ford for Jose Ferrer. You're not going to at least dangle. You're not going to at least listen. You're going to pull them all back and say, nope, we're going for it now. When you're still in the speculating phase that you don't even have your plans. You have the concept of a plan right now. It's garbage. It's garbage. And I just feel like this team is completely unserious where if you're going to start the rebuild, finish it instead of playing in this purgatory realm that they are right now. So those are two things. And I want to keep talking about the Orioles, what they do now, but I also kind of want to save it for playing general manager. And since this is the last day of the winter meetings, I want to save that for another episode.
I think we should save it. We're going to start the playing GM series next week. So we might as well start with Baltimore. I think we should start with, instead of going like I had it loosely planned as alphabetical order, but I think we should just start checking off the boxes of teams that I guess are most active at this point, right? Like I think two of the first teams that we should do are Baltimore and the Mets.
Yeah, or Toronto.
Yeah, I think Toronto would be good too.
Absolutely active.
Yeah, we'll definitely do Orioles playing GM next week because those are the next steps. We'll take one, Twins win pennant.
Producer Pete, can you stop? Can you stop? Wait, are we sure that was me? Pull that up again. It doesn't really look like me. Is it AI?
You shaved the beard.
AI is crazy these days. Also,
AI is nuts.
It also wasn't my typical background. Maybe I was held at gunpoint. I can't be held liable for that take.
Yeah, no, I would be curious to see if, like, from 2022, you've got like Twins win the World Series. Podcast P off the top rope, which is huge. Shout out Podcast P. I don't have a last word.
For the audio crowd, he pulled up a TikTok of me saying the Twins could win the pennant.
Yeah, and that was what, this year, right? That was 2025?
Yeah,
we're getting nods from
this upcoming season. I made that a week ago.
Them and the Angels, man. You just got to buy in again.
Quick last word. Do you know how long the Great Wall of China is?
Super long.
How long? Give me a guess.
200 miles?
What a horrible guess. I'm glad you guessed so low, though. So let me give you another hint. From the edge of the United States to the other, if you go west to east, east to west, it's 3,000 miles.
Okay.
How long do you think the Great Wall of China is?
Less than 3,000 miles.
It's 14,000 miles long.
Really?
Yeah. Peyton, Google it. Give me a screenshot. Give me a fact check here.
Also, real quick, this is my last word. Sharon Moore was fired with cause at the University of Michigan. I was like, this is a huge deal. I said this before we hit the record button, and you were like, no, it's not. Nobody cares. 13,000 miles, the Great Wall of China.
Crazy?
13,171. That's absurd.
That's absurd. And I think it was to keep the Mongolians out. I got to do even a deeper dive on the Great Wall of China.
More like the very, very Great Wall of China.
The extreme wall of China. Again, from Los Angeles to New York City, it's about like 2,800 miles. It's 13,171 miles long.
That's insane.
That's going across the United States 4 times.
That's insane. Last word. Michigan head coaching candidates after Sharon Moore was fired with cause. That seems like a really messy situation. It's so late in the process. There are a couple of people that jump out. No, it's not going to be Brian Kelly. I know that would be a hilarious hire, but no, it's not going to be Brian Kelly. The two that immediately jumped to my mind, because I love playing the carousel game, like armchair quarterback, but coaching carousel, Lincoln Riley at USC. He hasn't signed the extension to like retain him, and it seemed like his name was popping up occasionally. So Lincoln Riley jumps out. Jesse Minter also jumps out. Jesse Minter is the DC for Harbaugh with the Chargers. I thought Jesse Minter was going to stay and be the head coach at Michigan when Harbaugh left. But Not the case. He went with him. Sharon Moore stayed. Sharon Moore was the OC. Minner was the DC. I think Minner would be great at Michigan. Lincoln Riley, Jesse Minner, Kalen DeBoer. They hate his ass in Tuscaloosa right now. Those are my big three.
Thank you to everybody for listening to Jack's College Football Minute. As we all know, this podcast is just to get him big enough, the radio job with the Marlins, just to get him big enough so he could become a college football head coach.
I just want to be Josh Payton. Like, I
then
want to
get
be Josh
fired.
Payton when I grow up. That guy is awesome.
And then get fired so you can just sit on your ass and make $40 million a year.
Yeah.
It is funny. I do have a football channel that I do in the offseason, just Gridiron Fans, and it does pretty damn well. And you talk more about college football on this show than I talk about the NFL.
Shut up, man.
Shut up. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode of the Just Baseball Show. You got Pete Alonso for 50 minutes. You got Great Wall of China. And you got a Michigan coaching search. If you enjoyed, the best way to support the Just Baseball Show, if you're listening on audio, is to rate, review 5 stars. And if you would be so kind to leave a written review. If you've been joining us on YouTube Live, thank you so much again for joining. The best way to support these live streams, all we ask, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and leave a comment down below after the stream is done. Give us your thoughts. And of course, if you want to go get yourself some Just Baseball merch, you can find that link in the episode description, as well as join our Discord, the best baseball group chat in the world, just $10 a month. And if you want to join for the remainder of the offseason, we have discounted deals. And if you want to join us for the entire year, heavily discounted. For Jack McMullen, I'm Peter Apple. We'll see you soon. And with that, thank you, everybody.